We are now going to be diving into the gold medal game between Team USA and Team France for what ultimately rounded out an incredible basketball tournament. And we saw the US get pushed maybe a little bit down the stretch of this game, where the US was in control the majority of the way through, and this game in particular, but it did get down to a one possession game with a few minutes left as France started to make a run, US getting a little bit tight, but in stepped Steph Curry to put all of those doubts at ease. He was unbelievable down the final stretch of this game, and to anybody who is a part of the Steph Curry isn't clutch thinking, that probably came to an end over the course of this weekend, because in back-to-back games we saw him be one of the guys on one of the most talented basketball teams ever assembled. Specifically in this one, seeing him hit 4 3-pointers in the final 3 minutes and sort of helping the US to pull away in this game. He scored 24 points. The shooting was incredible for him once again. He was 8 and 12 in this game, coming off of, I believe it was something along the lines of 7 of 13 in the semifinals as well. So Steph Curry just on an absolute heater down the stretch of this Olympics, and he ultimately was able to maybe generate a little bit of buzz for himself as well in terms of whether or not he should be the MVP. But Steph Curry, just the way that he was able to close this thing out, Curry has been a little bit, he's been a beneficiary and has also been harmed a little bit by the fact that he played on the Warriors. 2 of his rings came with Kevin Durant, so there was a little bit of, at that point, I do think that Kevin Durant was the better basketball player, and I don't think that takes away from Curry whatsoever, but a lot of people do sort of use that as a knock against Steph's resume. But we saw it doesn't matter who he plays with, he is able to be the guy when it's all said and done. And that last 3 that he hit, stepping back, fading away, 2 defenders in his grill, that was one of, if not maybe the biggest individual shot of Curry's entire career, where it's not like he has necessarily been known as a closer, but he 100% slammed the door shut in this game. He was unbelievable. But it wasn't obviously just the Steph Curry show. Again, the big 3 of him, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James is what helped get it done. KD in this game became the first ever U.S. Olympic basketball player to win 4 gold medals. We've talked about this before. I think that he has a very good case for being the greatest basketball Olympian in United States history. Carmelo Anthony had a number of the top records and such until Kevin Durant sort of came in and stole the show this Olympic season, where he became the all-time leading scorer and the all-time leading rebounder, picked up his 4th medal. He was a major contributor. He hit the dagger shot in the semifinals against Serbia and did his contributions in this game as well. 15 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He is definitely, in conversation for that greatest U.S. Olympian. It's probably, in my eyes at least, between him and LeBron James, of course, who is LeBron. So naturally, hard to count him out of any conversation along those lines. Posted another double-double in this game, 14 points, 10 assists, and also grabbed 6 rebounds. Was definitely more of the driving force, I'd say, in the first half. Looked a little bit more fatigued in the second, but still another incredible performance from LeBron, who ends up being awarded the MVP award for this year's Olympics. Very well deserved. There was a little bit of a debate between him and Steph at the end, just because the weight of Curry's big moments in these last 2 games. Obviously, in elimination matchups, having Curry take over down the stretch, it deserves a ton of love, and we're going to dive into sort of what it looks like his overall legacy here. But I think that, it took Steph a very long time during the group stage or so to fully become the Steph Curry that we all know. And LeBron was just so consistent for Team USA and was shouldering so much of the responsibility all the way throughout. It's interesting with LeBron. I think that I might have mentioned this on a show last week that it is now, I think that we were sort of, as an NBA community, fully, for the most part, moved on from the idea of LeBron still being a top 5 player in the NBA. And it's clear that LeBron James in a vacuum is still, you cannot leave him on a top 5 basketball players list you can't leave him out of it. Now, I do think it's a little bit of a different conversation off of who's the best basketball player for a, single game elimination type tournament like this versus an NBA player with 82 game regular seasons and a 7-game series as well in the postseason. That's where I think that the age of LeBron, this one's a little bit more of a sprint. It's just a few weeks that LeBron can go out and dominate. We saw him in bursts be able to take over. If you remember, during the in-season tournament, he ended up being the MVP of that. And he was incredible then. He was incredible in this tournament. But, that's where I think it's definitely a debate. If you're going to put LeBron in your top 5 after watching what he just did, I can't disagree with you necessarily. But it does, LeBron did sort of re-enter his name in that conversation for anyone like me who was sort of moving on to the next generation. LeBron said, not so fast. Still 39 years old, but still got it. And it was just so special getting to watch this run out of the 3 of Steph, LeBron, and Kevin Durant, that they have been, the faces of the NBA for the past decade plus, probably. Curry and LeBron's first matchup in the finals was 2014-15, and since then it has really been dominated by, these faces. And it's going to be really weird to see an NBA without them and what it's going to look like as well. You think about the players that are currently on Team USA. It's like, which players are the ones who are going to emerge to have these moments that these players had in this set of Olympic Games. Going to be really interesting to watch how things progress. But as much as, sure, with greatness always comes scrutiny to some degree, and Curry, LeBron, and Kevin Durant have all faced their share of critics. But this was definitely, at least for me personally, I know it sounds a little bit corny, but just the appreciate greatness moments, that's all I could really experience here. And I especially was thinking as well that in an alternate universe where I didn't have rooting interests and that it wasn't so overpowered, I would have, enjoying Steph Curry and Kevin Durant playing alongside one another would have been so much fun. But obviously at the time, the landscape of the league was very different, and it still was basically cheating. It felt like cheating, at the time at least. But what a fun set of games from this trio. And it seems like it's probably going to be the last Olympics for each of them. LeBron already said that this was his last one. Team USA did just say that they could tentatively keep a roster spot open for Kevin Durant if he wanted to return in 2028. At this point, let me double check on the math here. But with Kevin Durant, at that point, he'll be probably 40 years old. Right now, he is currently 35, so I guess he'll be 39, same as LeBron. So it's on the table. Already the all-time leader in gold medals for the U.S. Olympic team. Could he add a 5th one to it? That might just be one of the unbreakable records if Kevin Durant does come back around. But, what a run between these 3 players. I do want to give some special credit as well to a couple other players, especially in this game. Anthony Davis, I thought that he was tremendous. Steve Kerr decided to lean a little bit further away from Joel Embiid in this game, and Anthony Davis was the one who played big minutes. 20 minutes for them, was part of the closing group, and you could see why he was, because Embiid, for as incredible as he is, especially given the fact that he's dealing with some physical ailments, Anthony Davis is just a more switchable defender, and especially along the perimeter and the three-point line, he can hold his own a lot more. And defensively and on the glass, Davis was a force in this game. And you saw it in those final few minutes. France was trying to pick on AD a little bit on the perimeter, pull him outside and see if he could hold his own on that one possession right outside a minute left. He ended up having a pass deflection and the block of an Evan Fournier three-point attempt within the span of 20 seconds or so. He was so impactful. I mentioned on the glass as well, 6 offensive rebounds, including a couple in the fourth. I mean, the stat line doesn't necessarily jump off of the page, but the offensive rebounds, 4 blocks out of Team USA's 6 was really impactful there. Had a couple steals along the way as well. Anthony Davis, I think, went pretty underappreciated. And obviously, Joel Embiid got his shine, especially in that game versus Serbia. And I am glad that ultimately we can come out of this with a positive. At least personally for me, I think it was, we saw the peak of Embiid that I was hoping for. It wasn't exactly always consistent, but whenever he wasn't there, Anthony Davis was able to fill in his shoes, and he did an incredible job. So I wanted to give Anthony Davis his flowers, and Devin Booker as well, where he went just so under the radar because of the fact that Devin Booker, and it was also a little bit of a realization that, Booker came up as more of a prototypical shooting guard, so it should have been no surprise that he was going to be able to seamlessly fit in with all of these different ball handlers. He's been getting a lot more sort of combo guard reps throughout the past couple of years in Phoenix, especially this past year where the Suns didn't have an actual point guard, that Booker was a lot more of an initiator, and you see the growths within his game, especially on the playmaking end, that make for a lot of positives. But averaged 11 points per game for Team USA, shooting 56% from 3, was really impressive. And ultimately, you have to give him some credit because he's somebody that definitely flies under the radar, but for whatever it's worth, don't want to go down that whole rabbit hole. But when you look at how Jason Tatum wasn't really able to fit in offensively, I think at times Joel Embiid, for, again, as great as he is, these are excellent players we're talking about, and they weren't able to mesh perfectly with the rest of Team USA and their ball dominant guys in that big 3. That Devin Booker, the fact that you didn't notice him at times could be a credit to, he held his own. He did what he was asked of him, and he really was an excellent role player for Team USA, and again, just super consistent throughout. So I want to give him his credit as well. Quickly on the France side of this game as well, where it was really impressive what we saw from Victor Wembanyama throughout this entire tournament. Sure, there were moments where the efficiency necessarily wasn't there, but you just look at the impact he so clearly has on the defensive side of the ball, and plus, especially in this gold medal game, getting the chance to see the offense as well, because baseline Victor Wembanyama, I think, is going to be basically, he was runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year his rookie season, so I think as long as he's healthy moving forward, we can expect Hall of Fame caliber defense from Victor Wembanyama, and I really don't think that that's hyperbole at this point, but it's seeing what that offensive side of his game is going to evolve into. Dropped 26 points in this game, 11 of 19 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3. Obviously, he's still very young at just 20 years old, that there's going to be a little bit of refining when it comes to his touch around the rim and the consistency of his three-point shot. But Wembanyama, just an incredible talent. And it was very interesting as well. After the game, I saw a quote that came out from him. It was from Ian Finger, I believe his name was. And it was just about what it's going to be like for Wemby moving forward. He said, quote, "I'm learning and I'm worried for the opponents in a couple years." And a reporter asked, in FIBA or in the NBA? And Wemby responded with, "Everywhere," which is just a pretty cold quote from, I mean, you can just see the competitive nature within Wembanyama crying after this game. I mean, he legitimately thought that they were going to come out of this, and he just had such a different level of pride for himself, for his country, for the team, trying to win these games, that I don't think we're going to see that competitive fire go anywhere. But did also want to give some love, obviously, to Guerschon Yabusele, dropping 20 points in this game, posterizing LeBron at one point. Yabusele, a former first-round pick in 2016, spent a couple years with the Celtics, and the way that he's just been able to evolve his game. It's not like I've been keeping up with him playing for Madrid in Europe these past couple years, but I mean, just a total transformation of what Yabusele, when he exited the NBA after 2018 to where he is now. I really have a hard time thinking as to why he shouldn't get an NBA contract. And one of my friends threw out to me the idea of, why wouldn't the Spurs go and get him? And, who knows really what their relationship is like behind the scenes of Wemby and Yabusele, but for whatever it's worth, I understand you want as many players as possible that have the boom potential and could be, stars one day, but also the Spurs, they just signed Chris Paul in the offseason. They want to start taking themselves a little bit more seriously. And Yabusele, for whatever it's worth, he could kind of do everything at this point. Not an excellent three-point shooter, but isn't a liability there, is more than comfortable taking the shots. His defense, I thought, was really impressive throughout this tournament. The rebounding as well. It seemed like him and Wembanyama had a pretty good rapport in terms of the way that they were able to play off of one another. I don't know if you would totally consider Yabusele as a big, but one of the bigger players on France at least. So I just thought that was a lot of fun to watch, and give France their credit, because this was a spectacular run. It was awesome getting to see them playing in front of the home crowd as well, and just the energy that was brought throughout this entire Olympics was incredible to see. So France ends up, getting the silver, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in that, because the win against Canada, the win against Germany, these were not givens by any means coming into this tournament, and they ultimately carved out a path of their own and are being awarded fairly for it afterwards. But again, just the Olympics and basketball obviously still run through the United States, and it's so awesome getting to see, these top-end guys playing. But once a LeBron, Durant, and Curry are all out, I understand U.S. wins the gold, and you mark it up and you look at, they've won however many consecutive golds, 5, 6, something like that. And the U.S. still dominates, but, the world is definitely on an upwards trajectory, and a lot of the younger up-and-coming players are from overseas, so it's going to be very interesting to monitor how this all plays out from here, and how Team USA is able to sort of find a new identity moving forward. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section on all of this. I do want to dive a little bit deeper into the specifics of the legacies of Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant. So that's what we are going to be diving into. But first, a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.